Okay, so now we have FIFR and being people-centered. This is going to bring us into really modern ages with the study that FIFR did on a bunch of companies, and he found that being people-centered equals profits. Why are companies in business? To serve customers and be profitable. And he found 7 items that companies need to practice in order to be people-centered and to create these extra profits. Now, the fascinating thing that he found is that 12% of the companies are actually people-centered. Only 12%. 88% of the companies don't have people-centered practices, and it is a loss to all. The employees lose, the company loses, the customers lose, society loses. So this, I think, is our last little progression of the history of management and going from primal to enlightened. Well, here's the latest version of being an enlightened manager. People need job security. I have worked at a major corporation, and they definitely had a no layoff policy. Employees fear layoffs and being fired. They can't concentrate and focus on the job if they don't know that they're going to have a job tomorrow. So it's really important, being people-centered, to have a sense of job security where employees don't have to worry about tomorrow. Actually, you're saying, well, what if bad times come? Well, people retire, people move on, people have life changes. If you control, you could have a hiring freeze and let the people that leave naturally shrink the amount of employees if that is needed. Now, you've heard this before. Careful hiring. You've heard it with 2 of the gurus from the history of management about finding a good fit, finding employees who are able to do the job. Well, this takes it a little bit further. Careful hiring in this case would mean employees can do the job, but they have a good fit with the organization's culture. They're not going against the grain. They have a natural fit with what the company believes in. Number 3, power to the people. We've seen it with the old primal managers, egotistical power mongers that are up here, and then the employee is down here. Well, he is saying that we are going to be more equal, and that goes right here too, but we're going to decentralize, meaning push the decisions down to the lower levels whenever possible. Sometimes you can't do that, but if you can, decentralize the decision making down to the employees. They know the processes. Let them handle things that they can handle. Empower them with decision making, and even going as far as self-managed teams. I have been on a team that did have a manager, but most of the times the manager was not around. And when they went on vacation, we operated even almost better than we did when the manager was there. We got the job done, and we weren't officially self-managed, but many times we were self-managed. And that gave you a little boost, a sense of pride that we don't have to be watched over all of the time. Generous pay for performance. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy, and we will cover that in this class, I think a little bit more for fuller explanation. But if people feel like they're not getting Adam's equity theory as well. If people don't feel like they're getting a fair pay for a fair day's work, they're not going to be happy. Alfie Kahn made the statement of get people to forget about the money, pay them well, so they can focus on the job. They're not always preoccupied and distracted by the fact that their pay isn't what it should be. So he's saying generous pay for performance. Number 5, lots of training. As things change, people need to be retrained. It doesn't have to be formal training. It can be on-the-job training and general training, but lots of training. As things change, people need training, and when people are trained and do go to those formal sessions and get the little certificate, they feel like the company is investing in them. They feel like they're worthwhile, and they're learning, and that makes them more valuable. So it's part of pay, actually. The training is part of pay. Less status, as we've said, instead of the manager being up here and the employee down here, we want to create an us-we feeling where nobody's better than anybody else. The managers do have position power. You know, I mean, you don't have to put manager on their forehead. This person could get me into trouble. But we move toward more of a we-us feeling. So it's a team. And there's not that fear of the manager who's way up here. It's more of a team spirit. Trust building. He's saying instead of hoard information, you share information. Some companies go as far as to have open books to show how a department is performing, with their budget and with their revenues and things like that. People like to know how they're doing. That's part of feedback. And not only that, but when you trust the employee and you share that information, they trust you as well. And he goes on to say that this is a package deal. The companies that are successful, the companies that are people-centered and gaining these profits, don't just practice one of these things, they practice all of them. So this would be one of the checklists that you could have. How are we doing on job security? Do the employees really think that, are they secure? Does the employee fit in? Don't hire somebody just to fill in a position. Hire the right person that's going to fit with the organization. How is our pay doing? Have we pushed decision making down? Have our employees been trained? What do they need training in? Are we arrogant as a management team? Are we seen as unapproachable? Well, we need to work on that. And do we have the trust of the employees? So, one way, we've come all the way from people being machines, employees being cogs, to introducing the human aspect of it, and then arriving here. So, great advice to get an organization operating, to get people on board. We have to be people-centered. And note that only, according to him, at this time, 12% of companies are actually people-centered, which is pretty bad, don't you think? Just think of all the losses that's going on in the other 88% of the companies.